Hey everybody, and welcome to another segment of AstrologyAnswers.com's weekly forecast. My name is Terence. The week begins on Monday, February the 12th, 2024. The moon will be in Aries. The moon sets the public tone and reaction. The moon in Aries gives a lot of initiative, ambition, kind of like really jumpstarts the work week to take chances, to take action. And the moon will be in harmony with a powerful, compulsive Pluto, giving it that real burst of energy. But the most of the positive period of that would only be from about 6 to 8 a.m. Pacific time. On Tuesday, as the moon continues in fiery Aries, Venus, pleasure-seeking relational Venus, will be in harmony with idealistic, empathetic Neptune. Now, having Venus in harmony with Neptune for the day can trigger some real romantic feelings, but also being inspired creatively. Later in the day, the Mars, assertive Mars, will be aligning with Pluto. Mars is actually the ruler of Aries, with the moon in Aries. And Mars is that warrior planet and assertive and can be competitive. And when it aligns with powerful Pluto, it gives a tremendous competitive spirit, driven spirit, maybe by the late afternoon Pacific time into the first half of Wednesday on the 13th. A lot can be accomplished. There's this tremendous drive and motivation with Mars-Pluto. Wednesday, now the moon leaves fiery, impatient Aries and moves into calming, steady Taurus at 7:03 a.m. Pacific time. Taurus is an earth sign. It's more grounded. It's more sensible. And it's also where it's that steady, slow, where when the moon was in fiery Aries, it's impulsive, it's off to the races. But when the moon is in Taurus, the general public response is, let's take our time and moderation and taking your time wins the race. The moon, however, will be in a square or a hard angle to that Mars-Pluto, which is still strong, through the first part of Wednesday, Pacific time. But between 8 and 10 a.m. Pacific time, that emotional moon in steady Taurus will be in a stressful angle to the Mars-Pluto. The good news here is that the moon is in Taurus, kind of grounding, sensible Taurus, as it triggers this ambitious, driven Mars-Pluto. So this can be pretty favorable energy, actually, because you can handle and channel all that ambitious drive to accomplish your goals. Thursday, as the moon continues in calming, practical Taurus, it's going to be in a hard angle with communication Mercury from about noon, 1 p.m. Pacific time. The moon is emotional. It's in hard angle stress with Mercury, which is rational. So you wouldn't want to be having a heartfelt conversation with a loved one or having a job interview or conducting a meeting around noon to 1 p.m. because that moon is you're being really emotional, and then there could be this, one person could be emotional and the other person is being rational. Just let the waters calm. This too shall pass. It's only intense for an hour to 2 hours. Late afternoon, however, the moon will cross over Uranus. Uranus is this liberating, progressive, rebellious energy. It demands personal freedoms. The moon in Taurus will steady the energy so it doesn't become too overblown and unpredictable. But here's some good news. The moon can represent our habits, our emotional conditioning, and Uranus can represent liberation. Uranus can represent insight. So late afternoon Pacific time, there's more of an opportunity to get some real insight in some unconscious habits and patterns that you're waking up to, and that you could start to break through and let go. Friday, the moon in Taurus will go void of course, 7:02 a.m. to 11:40 a.m. Pacific time. At 11:40 a.m., the moon moves into Gemini. When the moon is void of course, as I mention every week, the moon is changing signs. Here it's going from Taurus to Gemini. But the void of course period means it's no longer making any aspects to the other planets in the chart until it then moves into the next sign and starts the whole cycle again. So the energy is flat. It's unproductive. Stick with the routines. Good for resting, good for reflecting. It's not advised to be launching important new projects until after 11:40 a.m. when the moon goes into Gemini. And Gemini is that planet, that sign of intelligence and restlessness and brainstorming. Now, the moon will be in harmony with Venus. So there's a lot of social creative energies going on early afternoon Pacific time. Mercury, communication Mercury, decision-making Mercury. Mercury is what are you thinking about? What is on your mind? Mercury will be in a hard angle to Uranus. Now, Mercury, when it's favorable with Uranus, can be a lot of genius, original thinking, a lot of innovation. But when it's in a hard angle, your mind might be too wired, jumping from brilliant idea to another idea, a lot of anxiousness. You need to really calm yourself down to get the best benefits. And the emotional moon is in Gemini. In Gemini, it can be restless in Gemini and jumping from idea to idea. So a lot can be accomplished with all this mental energy if you can really stay focused and channel the energy through exercising, through meditation, to center the mind. Friday evening, Pacific time, the pleasure-seeking Venus will now be aligned with powerful Pluto. This can be you're really seeking more intimacy, a more authentic, loving connection. As it's Friday evening, it could be a great time for romance, for going to a party and meeting somebody new. The thing with Pluto, it wants to go really deep, and Venus is that relational desire. So it opens up the opportunity for more intimacy, more passion, perfect for jump-starting the weekend. And on Saturday, the moon's still in Gemini, but there's no other planetary events going on. So on one hand, it's kind of calm energy, but with the moon in Gemini, you're jumping from one idea to the next, but really good for lots of conversation, a lot of mental stimulation. On Sunday, the moon, continuing in intelligent Gemini, will be in a square or a hard angle with Neptune, nebulous Neptune. Now, Neptune, when it's positively aspect, can be inspiring and empathetic and idealistic. But when it's being stressed, as it will Sunday around noon to 1 p.m. Pacific time, a stressed Neptune gets confused, gets out of focus. So emotionally, the moon in Gemini in hard angle to Neptune, you might be prone to some misunderstandings, being confused. But again, it's only an hour or two. This too shall pass. But later in the day, there's a really important shift of energy. As the moon is moving into Cancer, emotional Cancer, a water sign, and the sun is moving into Pisces, which is a water sign, and Pisces is that intuitive, sensitive energy. That moon goes into Cancer at 7:25 p.m. Pacific time, and less than an hour later, at 8:13 p.m. Pacific time, the sun moves into Pisces. All that, so the moon is emotional. Cancer is an emotional, watery sign. The sun in Pisces puts a spotlight for the next 4 weeks. Pisces is very sensitive, compassionate, intuitive. So it's a lot of feelings and emotions are going to start being stimulated Friday or Sunday evening. But it's also very favorable for caretaking and emotion and in your emotional connections. And it can also be very favorable creatively. I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope to see you next week with my next segment. Until then, be safe and well.